Welcome to the CyberGov podcast, where you'll learn how to build a cybersecurity strategy that will help you earn more revenue across your government contracting business. I'm your host, Romeo Gardner. Today, we got a special guest, VIP for sure, Dondre Lawson, renowned. And I mean, this guy is just about everywhere. I've seen him in Maryland, but he's just about everywhere. Cybersecurity expert with a really deep, rich understanding for government contracting and growing a business. Welcome, Dondre. Tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Hey, Romeo. Thank you for having me. Again, Dondre Lawson. I run two companies. One is Emerald Technical Solutions. We're cybersecurity, cloud AI, geospatial contractors for the DoD, mainly serving the Army and the Navy and FedSim. And then we have Defense Interns, which is a nonprofit business where we rotate high school seniors through core defense contractors in their final year of high school, teaching them things about Microsoft Azure, cybersecurity policies, digital infrastructure, on-prem networking, anything you can name it. We've been teaching it to the students, to the interns, and I'm also a Maryland National Guard troop.
You stay busy. You stay busy, brother. Man, that's you hold a unique space though, because all of these different things, how do you balance that with two companies, National Guard? How do you balance those things out?
My calendar is king. The calendar comes before everything. If it's not on the calendar, I don't know that it's happening. Monday through Saturday, sometimes I'm checking the calendar just to make sure that, things are aligning, and then the calendar ties into some personal stuff. And then everyone else on my C-suite staff, everyone's calendars are all tied in. So it's been a bumpy road to get here, but it's now smoothed out and, working to make sure that we meet all of our customer expectations, interpersonal expectations, business expectations, and then, trying to show up on time. The thing that I need to do is add some time for myself in the calendar.
That's the thing. I was just about to ask you what you do for yourself. I was really about to ask you, what do you do for yourself? I'm asking that question because as a business owner, specifically somebody that's in the cybersecurity space, it seems like that particular area in industry does not sleep. So with you running two businesses, being in the National Guard, specifically around that area, what types of things do you do for yourself?
It's a good question. It's a very good question. Well, from time to time, I still do dabble and play some video games. Now it's just phone games, right? I just play like Diablo on my phone. I've been reading a lot more. So, as you start growing in business and you start meeting all these really famous people or people that have done it before, everyone has a book. They go, buy my book. They're like handing their book out like guys in the mall back in the day handing out mixtapes, right? That's how people are handing their books out. And so I've been doing more reading and trying to, just understand and listen to other people through their words. Really, they're selling their words and just trying to figure out, what someone else's journey looks like. Not to compare it, just to, take little pieces from it. So I've been doing that some time occasionally for myself, obviously, personal family. Won't speak too much, but play with the kids and try to make sure everyone's happy. But, overall, I need to do more stuff for myself. But I get passionate about, like my free time, some of my free time I spend on defense interns. So I'm super passionate about that because those opportunities weren't really available for me when I was 18. So being able to do that is kind of like my hobby right now.
Man, you stay busy. Making time for yourself, trust me, I'm a definitely keep up with you on making sure that you're taking time for yourself. So you can be prepared for me to hit you up around, hey, what'd you do for yourself this month or this week? So those questions are coming, my friend.
I appreciate that. I need that.
For sure. I need that good
battle buddy. So
Speaking of defense interns as well as your business, what made you start either one of them? So Emerald, what made you decide that you were going to go into business for yourself?
So I was working for a large contractor up at Aberdeen Proving Grounds, and I kept solving problems really fast, technical issues, of course, for a big customer right there. And one day, one of my customers was like, "Hey, you should look into starting your own business. Like, you're young enough, you don't have kids, all these things." And I went down, a rabbit hole about how to start a business, particularly just how to start a business. Like, there's it should be another how to start a government contracting business. But then that's when you meet Joshua Frank and Michael Legime.
100%. Those
to tell you about, what you should do when you start. But, I was working there and I was going back and forth. I was actually working on 3 projects all at the same time. So I would work my 8-hour day, and then I would split like another 6 hours in that day, working 3 to 2 hours a piece on the other contracts, as like I was essentially a technical cowboy, right? Running around trying to make sure stuff worked. People had access to things,
Wow.
Licenses were applied to systems were compliant and secure, following like NIST 800-171, and making sure that, everything was working. And again, I didn't have nothing else going on, and ended up starting Emerald. It's funny because I was trying to figure out what was the name for Emerald, and I wanted to call the company Triforce IT at first, with the Triforce, if you're familiar with Zelda. And, yeah. And I really, really wanted to do that because Zelda, one of my number one favorite video game of all time, Ocarina of Time. I really wanted to do that, and then I wanted to make the Triforce triangles, red, white, and blue, for the American flag, right? Thought when I said, I'm gonna start a business. My graphic design artist, also super big, huge fan. Shout out to Robert Burkhead, big, huge fan of Zelda, was like, we're not doing that. I'm not getting hit with copyright infringement. I'm not getting sued. None of that's happening. We got to go back to the drawing board. And we came up with a bunch of different names. Again, this was also before AI was so commercially used. Right, AI it's been around for a while, but before it was commercially used, so it was a little difficult, just trying to come up with something. And then we came up with Emerald, right? We kept saying it, or I kept saying it, and it stuck. First, it was Emerald Technical Solutions and Staffing, because I thought I wanted to get into staffing, and hey, we could find technical people faster than anyone else. Decided not to do that. Just now it's Emerald Technical Solutions. And it says it in the name, right? Like, if you got a technical problem, we probably 95% of the time have a solution, or have people that know the solution to start it. And it flowed well, it clicked. And my advice to anyone starting a business is make sure your business name isn't something weird or long. And, I even learned my lesson with the domain when I did a .tech domain, right, when it should have been a .com domain, because it can show up as spam a lot. So, and then for defense interns, Emerald was registered as a Maryland apprenticeship business, and we had a young lady that was working for us, and this is in 2022, like the beginning of 2022. So we had started implementing CMMC policies in 2022 for our business. So we had her doing like all of the stuff that was ingested from Microsoft Intune, from from the compliance manager. We had ingested an assessment, and we're doing that in 2022. People were just figuring it out about it now. We had her doing it, and I was like, you know what? I can only teach so much about business. I'm still fairly young, right? But I have partners that need interns, that would like to have an intern, and they're going to be able to get a different kind of experience from those places when they start working there, because we have a variety of different size businesses. So you get to see what a mid to large size business looks like, down to a micro level business, and what that looks like. And the program off, initially a lot of people said no. People are still saying no. because there's a lot of intellectual property laws around if 18-year-old people can work or not work in the organization. But we're able to rectify that with some legal documentation and, start rotating interns. In the last 2 years, 2 of our interns have gotten selected by the Maryland Department of Labor as an apprentice of the year. Right?
That's amazing.
It is, and our apprentice, one of our interns now, Franzi, she actually got to meet Governor Moore. Right? So you're a 17-year-old and you get to meet the governor, and your family meets him. You're talking with him and Mrs. Wu, or Portia Wu, right? And that's really cool, right? To say, hey, I kicked my career off doing this. That's a little bit about why we kicked off both those companies.
Man, that's awesome. Like, that's really awesome. I mean, you really gave some insight into the names in addition to the tech domain. Like, I didn't know that. I didn't know it would show up as spam. So folks out there that are looking to use that domain, you may want to rethink that. I had no idea, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, even commercially, what everyone's doing for like CMMC stuff, if you were moving your tenant to GCC or GCC High, and you're coming in a .us address, that also can get marked as spam, right? You got to make sure, like, you put your DKIM encryption keys and you're rotating the keys, or you're whitelisted in people's tenants, but then that's on a case-by-case basis. But like .tech was just hit, it still does. It hits your spam, right? And we do all that stuff, but a lot of old school email, like Exchange filters out a lot of stuff that's not .com or .org, right? Or I think .biz is another widely used one too. Everything else just gets hit the spam.
Man, that's awesome. I mean, I'm glad that you are highlighting that now for other folks that are listening, because I tell you, that name is important. Our podcast and my business did not start out with these names. My business, Nilos, did not start out that way. It was Empower Now Technologies. And I started to see that was a mouthful to say. And then started looking around at different companies, very much like you did. And you start to notice that there are like 2 or 3 syllables long. Like almost all of these bigger companies are 2 or 3 syllables. So it's amazing that you did that research and did that so quickly to really focus on what the name was going to be for Emerald, as well as Defense Interns. Like, it's very short, concise, and to the point. So, man, that's amazing that you did that so fast. So thanks for that background on the names, because me personally, I like the backstories. I love a good context on stories and things like that about how businesses got started, things like that. I got another question for you, because you started to talk about cybersecurity, CMMC, and other businesses, right? For new businesses that would be joining government contracting, like brand new businesses, right? What would you say some of the better things would be for them to do, or best practices from a cyber perspective? And when I say that, I'm not talking about like a cyber company, not like you mentoring a cyber company that's coming in. I mean, a company that does either goods and services or retail or anything like that. What would be some of their best practices, just general from a cyber perspective?
This is day one. We're starting Triforce IT. Let's just go there. Let's use it. Now, I always wanted to. So I'm starting Triforce IT, and I have the best AI tool under the sun. I can tell the government how to search through RFPs quicker, right? If there's 1,000 people to submit them, and that's what our technology does. So I start the business, right? The first thing everyone does is says, I need an email and a domain name and a website. That's number one. Well, that's number one after you've got your legal documentation done and you've incorporated and you're trying to figure out what to do. I can't offer anyone legal advice because I'm not a lawyer. Seek out your lawyer. But technically, if I was going to do it again, if I was going to use, and I knew that I was going into CMMC, like you have to be CMMC level 2 comply. Like you don't have a choice. Like it's coming. I mean, it's already here. So if you're going to do this, utilize Microsoft Office. Do not use the competitors. I'm not going to say their names. I don't want anyone to get sued. Use Microsoft Office. You can essentially go to their federal site and say you're a contractor as long as you have a DUNS. I think they check your UEI number and maybe your DUNS number now. So again, that's more legal documentation you're going to have to take care of. And then you're going to register and get a GCC high environment. You're going to do, or GCC. You don't have to do high. It's a little more expensive. You're going to do GCC. And then this way, all of the controls, those FedRAMP controls, those NIST 800 171 controls, there's a baseline of those controls already implemented in your tenant. So when you start working with the government and you start sending emails, you start getting registered in these different systems, you are already taking the correct steps to ensure that you will be and can meet CMMC level 2 compliancy, which is a whole nother topic and conversation for another day, right? And then when you get registered in SAM, you also, if you're going to be a small business, so you're going to want to make sure you're registered in the the Dynamic Search Business Database, right, through the Small Business Administration, and you're going to make sure you fill all that information and data out. Even if you don't have any past performance in there, you'll gain it. You're going to get the past performance, but you want to make sure that your NAICS codes are in there. You need to understand what your NAICS codes are. Some people use PSC codes. I know them off the top of my head. 541-511, 541-512, 541-330, 541-519, right?
Yep.
And you need to understand that your NAICS codes will tie to specific contracts. Contracts will come out on those NAICS codes. If you're going into the space, like for instance, we use the AI tool as an example, you're going to be looking at like CBERS and SCT. CBERS that comes out from different government organizations to bid against to potentially get funding for your technology, right? Because you're selling a tool rather than selling services. If you're selling services, if you and 10 people go into business together and you start a company and you have 10 CISSPs on your staff and all you guys are like, hey, we just want to crank out and chase cyber work, there has to be some planning and or means to plan behind that. So understanding the type of organizations that actually procure and need to procure cybersecurity services. Also note, if you're an IT company, everyone and their grandma is doing IT. It's just about who stands out differently and how you approach situations differently or complex issues differently, right? So people go into a lot of branding, right? Like we're in it now. It's our company motto, people, technology, and mission, right? The mission doesn't work without technology, and technology doesn't work without people, right? And that's the company motto. That's what I live, eat, and breathe. So there's a lot to start with, but I think from a technical stance, you need to ensure that your environment is going to be ready to either ingest and or implement the controls that you need to operate with CUI and government CUI in your environment, or CUI, however you want to say it, in your environment prior to you doing any business with the government. Because as it stands right now, if you want to do work with the government, you have to have past performance, a facility clearance. You got to have all these business certifications. If you're a small business, if you are a veteran, right, you might want to look at the SBA programs for VOSB or SCVOSB programs. I'm not going to say 8A because you shouldn't pop your 8A immediately. You should wait till you hit past performance, facility clearance, partnerships, money in the bank, and then you should pop your 8A so that you can go ahead and leverage that program to the fullest effect. And that's what we're about to do. So, if I had to write a technical book about what you should do, we 100% could do it. I'll give you an example. We also are MSP. And so a company came to us and said, hey, we're going to start do some government contracting. And I said, look, you guys can ingest all of the controls in a Microsoft commercial environment, you can
Mm-hmm.
do it through Intune. It's cheaper. It's just the process is longer to actually implement all those controls. It is cheaper though, right?
Yep.
Will that change? Will the government come out and say, if you want to do work with the government, you need to everyone who's doing to be a .us address, and you need to all be in a G on the Microsoft. They have the government, the GCC essentially. That might happen. They might come out and say that. We really don't know. So that's kind of my forethought into it. If I were to do it again, what would I change and do differently? And have a legal team. I mentioned a lawyer earlier. Have a legal team because, excuse me, if people start sending you teaming agreements, contracts, even NDAs, exclusivity in contracts, you got to know how to, you should understand all those things. You should also know how to read the contract so you don't end up in a weird scenario or place where someone owns the rights to your proprietary information, your code, you team with a person, you could have waited. Like there's a plethora of information that you could give somebody that says, hey, I want to come into government contracting. And this is for everybody. It's not just if you're starting a tech company. You could be in construction. I'm gonna tell you the same thing. You should start here and do this because you also, as a construction company or as a cleaning service company or as a training company, as a security company, you all got to be compliant. Everyone has to be at the CMMC level 2 compliancy.
100%, man. You unpacked a lot there. I mean, a really good wealth of information around starting the company, compliance within a company, all of those things. And what really stuck out to me was the conversation around CMMC, the compliance piece, all of that for a brand new company that is not an IT company. It doesn't matter who you are, from construction to, as you mentioned before, all those different companies are going to need to be compliant. So starting early can help them get ahead of that. And that's definitely a lot that you unpack there. And which is funny to me, it leads me to the next question though. Like all of those things, how long you been in business, man? How long you been in business?
Almost 6 years.
Almost 6 years.
So,
and you learn that stuff relatively quickly, or you feel like it was a long journey?
I feel like it's been due to some failing and some learning and picking up what other people have put down. I also have been able to work with a large business that is really not in a traditional mentor protege agreement, but just, hey, you guys should do this. You should make sure you check this. You should make sure you check that. I saw recently someone was interviewing Mrs. Dobbs from Dobbs Defense Solutions. Yeah. And she was talking about, having your CMMC and those ISO certs. Some people think it's not necessary. And for them, it may not be because they served with the contract officer, they got a direct award or something, and they didn't have to worry about it. But you will have to worry about it. It will come. Yeah. But, every day is learning, right? Like learn how to work with other people, learn how to, I'm not going to say manage people, I'm going to say collaborate with people, understand that, there's different things that make people tick. Some people want money, some people want a culture, some people want a marvelous career. As a business owner, that's really what you have to, try to make sure you check the box for everybody, and you actually check the box. You're not just like, oh, we're just doing it, whatever. We're just, this person likes coffee, so we went and bought, one of those TK machines we keep seeing on Facebook ads and got them this awesome coffee machine, so they shut up. We didn't do that. We just, hey, here's a good, we care about, you come in the office every day, here's a coffee machine, right? Like things like that. And not all business owners think like that, right? Some people are just like revenue, top line, bottom line. And so I think, I've just learned a lot over the last 4 to 5 years between like wins and losses, just like how things should work, how the business should be established, right? Like even for me, we're not that big, but there's a front office established, right? Like I have a growth officer, I have an operating officer, we have a technical officer, and you have me as the executive officer. Like if a customer comes to us today and goes, I have a problem set, can you guys fix it? Or can you guys do it in your organization? Like, how is it going to look? We have people that are trained, that understand, that have been working for the government long enough where it won't be an issue, right? For us to actually execute and move forward.
That's amazing, man. That's definitely, I mean, it does take time to build that. And I've always thought about, yeah, I can win some things, but do I really learn a lot from winning? I can tell you I learned a heck of a lot from some L. You take a good L and you're gonna learn a lot. Take a good L, it'll make you realize, step back and rethink a couple of things on, do I need to do this again? Or should I even be in this space? So I'm sure you've been through a couple of those things. And around Emerald's capabilities, I want to ask a question around like the school and community initiatives, your service commitment, and how that helps to build your career early.
It's a good question. So if you notice, Governor Westmore has the year of service commitment to service that they started. And a lot of people are starting to focus on what the youth bring and what the youth look like. And I think that is more or less from a movement. And in places that aren't Silicon Valley, in places that aren't in these massive tech incubators, tech hubs. So a lot of other cities that have the potential, like Baltimore City, is like, you know what? We can figure it out. We have a governor in place that understands the importance of investing in the youth, investing in the schools, and really investing in our future. Because if the next Facebook is built by some 19-year-old out of Baltimore, they're probably going to operate their business in the state of Maryland, right? Oh, yeah. And the state of Maryland, more than likely, is probably going to help that person. I'm not going to say with tax breaks, we just say generally help that person so they stay in the state, right? That's like a very high legalish explanation of why I think that they're starting to do a lot of initiatives around cyber ranges, cyber training, what does apprenticeships look like? What does internships look like? Oh, yeah. But for the young adults that come through the program, right? I have, on the last program, we have someone, his name is James. He has a Security Plus certification, A+ certification. He has his associate's degree. He has a public trust clearance. He'll graduate from Stevenson University, and he'll also have a bachelor's in cybersecurity at 20 or 21, right? And in theory, if he wanted to go into the Maryland National Guard right after you graduated high school with an associate's degree, he could go in as an 09 Sierra and then essentially go into the dual S&P program at ROTC, and he's now a second lieutenant. He's a bachelor's degree person, or got his bachelor's degree. He has probably a top secret clearance depending on the MOS that he chooses to have, right? And he is 21. So that is to me, that's workforce development. And he still has so much to learn compared to someone who was 28, decided that they didn't like their job doing underwater basket weaving, and they said, I'm going to go into IT now, and I want to make a bunch of money, because that's the other, fallacy about everyone saying, I'm jumping into IT, I'm gonna make a bunch of money.
Yep.
All the people I know that make a bunch of money in IT, they've been doing it right for at least 10 plus years.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
They've been, when I joined the Army, it wasn't that long ago, but when I did join, we're using RT-1523s, Prick 117s, like all of the hand mic H250s, right? All the communication stuff, like how to, secure loaders, like what encryption looks like, how to do subnetting, TCP/IP, like all the stuff that you would learn in college. It got taught by the Army, and it got taught in a more of a kinetic learning environment because it was a lot of hands-on, right? So that's the difference of people that start that process and then come back comparably to, I'm jumping into IT. They got job offers, they're cutting checks over there. They got people making 150, 200. That's fine, but you got to understand if you switch today from whatever you're doing, someone's putting you on a help desk, you're gonna work on a help desk. You're gonna learn about customer management, you learn about service desk tickets, you're gonna learn about SLAs, service level agreements, OLAs, metrics, reporting, knowledge bases, peripherals, items like, hey, my monitor is not working, give me a new mouse, my laptop is broken, re-imaging. That's what you're going to do on a service desk, right? And then after you've worked that for a while, you might get moved to a systems administrator position where you'll do more of the same stuff, but just at a higher level with more permissions, right? And then after you're in that role, then you can figure out, I want to do cloud engineering. I want to go into technical project management. I want to go into cybersecurity. I want to go, and there's subcategories into cybersecurity, right? I want to go to white hat, black hat, gray hat testing, or gray box testing. I want to do IA, information assurance. I want to be ISSM or ISSO, or ISSE. There's different levels inside of once you've gotten to that point where you're like, all right, it's like when you're playing. It's like you're playing a video game. It's like, choose your path. Which path do you want to go? Do you want to go the light route, the dark route? Do you want to be the Sith or do you want to be the Jedi? Who do you want to do? I think that's really how it should go, but that doesn't happen. So for the youth, for us as a business, being involved in the community to see more youth understand and be taught like what it actually means to learn about IT at a young age, because that's your pipeline. The people, if you're 21, if you're a bachelor's degree person, you have Security Plus, and you can prove that you have experience, you'll get hired. Like, you'll find a job. Like, there is an abundance of jobs. Someone will hire you, right? When you go in the interview, if you got to knock it out of the park, just say, hey, I'm technical. Like, I know what I'm talking about, right? This is what I've done in my internships and apprenticeships. Like, these are the things that I've been able to do. I know what I'm talking about. I think for us, for Emerald, before we even get to defense interns, that's really how I look at the youth as an organization. Like, sure, I'm a business owner at the end of the day. It puts more people into the field of folks that can work out of the pool that we can pick from. And chances are I'm probably going to have first dibs on that person. So if we are looking for work that's help desk, which we really don't do unless it's MSP work, but if we're looking at help desk work, I would say non-critical infrastructure work, I have a pool of people that I can go talk to, that I have a really personable relationship with, to say, and all of our partners do as well, not just me, to say, hey, we can use that person to do X, Y, and Z, right? That's the biggest piece of understanding why the youth are so important, because for me at least, everyone that I've met doing IT that's like 55 plus starts losing it, because they're like, back in the day when we were developing on, Cold Fusion 1 or 2, or back in the day when I was using VBA to develop stuff, or, we had to copy stuff to tapes and discs. It doesn't work like that anymore. So some of those people adapt, and then some of the people are like very like stuck in their ways of like, if I know how to do something better, and I go talk to a 40-year-old about, hey, we don't use on-prem storage solutions. Like, we have one backup, or we use Veeam or one of the other cloud solutions, but all of our stuff lives in our Office 365 tenant. This is how it works. And you explain it to them, they might be like, huh, okay, cool. But the young people, brains are sponges, man. Like, these kids pick it up and they run with it, and they really astonish everybody.
Man, I'm gonna be real, man. You talk about the youth being, next up. And I'm gonna be real honest. Like, it takes a lot of people that I see and that I work with. They don't realize that until they get older to really invest in younger folks. You're not that old. And you turned back already to say, I realize this. I want to focus on helping even younger folks get to where I'm at and beyond. What triggered that? Because there's got to be something, I don't know what it is, but there's got to be something for you that said, I want to look at younger folks, even those that are younger than me, rather than just saying, let me focus on my business, get to a certain point where I'm older and set, and then I can do this. But you started to do it already. What was that propelled you to do that?
I think a lot of teachers have this, they get this warmth when they explain something to someone, or the person isn't getting it, and then they do it again, and they might do it a third time, and then they get it. I experienced that, and I was like, this is what it's like. I didn't have these opportunities weren't available. Like, I wasn't a good kid in high school. Like, I was, troubled, dealing with a bunch of, BS. Like, and now it's like, well, we literally can control jobs. Like, if my people go and write and we bid on something and win, we have open jobs. We won a contract. Like, that's phenomenal. Now I can go, hey, I got 2 junior positions. Do you guys want jobs? And some of these kids are hungry. And the crazy thing is, they're hungry and their parents are already successful. Like, the parents are rich. I'm not gonna say rich, but the parents are in a good situation where the kids are like, I wanna make my own way. Right? Like a Bronny James situation. Like, I still had to work hard to get here. Sure, my dad's LeBron, but it might have helped me a bit. But there's a bunch of students I feel like that are like, hey, we want more opportunity. We want to learn different things about IT and how to get into the space. And I really think that is the most important piece of it for me, is that, where can you go work at an internship in high school and meet 4 company CEOs and or C-suite people from those businesses and learn about different things in technology from 4 companies? The answer is nowhere other than defense interns.
I like it, man. I like it. I really do, man. Dondre, we met probably 2 years ago at Veterans Edge. And 2 years ago at Veteran Edge. And every time I talk to you, I learn something new about you every time. Probably because I'm nosy and I ask a lot of it's always good to chat with you, man. It's really good to chat with you, to learn about those types of things that you're doing. You're very busy. As I mentioned, I'm definitely going to keep up with you on ensuring that you take some time for yourself, because I am a huge fan of that. As we begin to wrap up, please let us know what's the best way somebody can get in touch with you, whether that's Defense Interns, Emerald Technology Solutions. What's the best way folks can reach you or reach your company?
For Emerald, if you want to do business with us, we're pretty easygoing people, right? Like, you got to us on LinkedIn. We had someone do that recently. We'll send you our emails. You just search Dondre Lawson and or Vroback. Also Crystal Cokel on LinkedIn. Shoot us a message. We'll get it with you and talk about how we can do business. Contract vehicles, we are reachable on OAS 3. We will be reachable on Maps when it comes out, as long as that. And we have a bunch of partners and customers that we work with in both the Army and the Navy space over in the DoD side. So if you do want to reach out and know how to, we probably can give you a vessel or method to actually thus defense interns. So if you shoot an email to support@defenseinterns.com, so we'll get back with you. If you're a defense contractor and you're sick of paying for golf tournaments because you're trying to get your charitable donation for the year, and you know your money is going into a fire and going nowhere, you can join the Interns program. It's not expensive at all, right? It's fairly reasonably priced for what we ask for. And receive students that go through a hiring process, a selection process, essentially, and that come work for your organization and as well. And then, also for the guard side, if anyone who's watching this is younger and thinks that they might want to pursue a military career, the National Guard is also a good choice for people who don't want to do active duty or, want to leverage the things that they've gotten already and state level. The Guard is a very good avenue, right? It's a very good vessel for that. So you can also reach out to me on LinkedIn as well. And that's all I got. I appreciate you having me on, Romeo, and it's been a good time, and I'm sure I'll see you coming up here in a couple of months or before, and we'll speak and chat again.
You know it, man. I definitely appreciate you being on, sharing all that information. I know some folks are going to reach out to you, especially around National Guard, defense interns, CMMC portion. So you dropped a lot of good information. Thank you so much for being on the show. And I'll see you in a couple months, probably March out at Veteran Edge, man. Thanks again, Dondre. Appreciate it, brother.
Come listen to us on YouTube, LinkedIn, or your favorite podcasting app.